I'm about to introduce our lunchtime speaker. And the introduction I have in front of me is pretty interesting and pretty in-depth. And I think it's appropriate, considering the experience and the dedication that this person has given to the area of Labrador and to Labrador West. So I'd like to introduce you to the Parliamentary Secretary for Northern Affairs, the Parliamentary Secretary for the Department of National Defence, Northern Defence, and Canada's Arctic representative with the Arctic Circle, polar countries, and she's government's representative on the Standing Committee for Natural Resources and the Member of Parliament for Labrador. And that's a mouthful. I'd like to welcome Yvonne Jones.
Thank you, Edward, and thank you all for your attention. I know it's hard to eat and listen at one time, but I know you're all up to the challenge. So first of all, I want to acknowledge the tremendous work of the Chamber of Commerce here in Labrador West in pulling together this summit. It doesn't just happen by accident, it happens because of a lot of hard work. And I want to acknowledge Toby Leon and Lydia and all of their group for the work that they've did. I also want to acknowledge the diverse representation that we have in the room today, from federal, provincial, municipal, and Indigenous leaders to business, industry, learning, unions, healthcare, and housing champions. I think we've captured just about everyone that we could and got them into this room. And so the Chamber has obviously left no stone unturned in bringing the right people together. And we have a combination of people who live here and have been residents here all of their lives, to newcomers who's chosen Labrador West as their home, to all of you who have journeyed here to be our valuable partners and to work with us in moving Labrador West forward. So welcome to you all. I've truly enjoyed the summit so far, and I really feel that this forum is laying a foundation to meet the challenges that the region is currently facing, and to do more to modernize for a stronger economy and a stronger community in Labrador West into the future. As many of you in this room, especially some of the speakers that we had this morning, have come to realize over a long period of time that we are not the communities of our parents. We are communities in very different, challenging times, and we must continue to pioneer as they did to ensure that we meet the task of the modern day community that we live in. I know as a politician, it's never really smart to talk about what you've already done. So I'm going to skip over all of that part. But I do want to outline some of the programs that are ongoing by the federal government. These are programs that we would have announced in the last 24 months, and they're in place to support communities like Labrador West and those who work in communities with mines and in the mining industry. I was really sorry this morning I couldn't join you for all the panels and again last evening, but I feel like I'm skipping off school because the House of Commons is open and Parliament is sitting. And in order for me to be here with all of you, I have to still be available for votes and I have to still be available for committee. So I've been spreading my time between both places. But I wanted to mention that we're dealing with Bill C-49, which is the Atlantic Accord. And anyone who lives in Newfoundland and Labrador know how important the Accord is to our province. It allows us to derive about 85% of our royalties in the oil and gas industry. And we're expanding that bill now to include offshore wind, renewable energy projects, and still allowing the province of Newfoundland and Labrador to keep the royalties and revenues that they get. So it's an important bill. It's taken a lot of time. So you'll have to forgive me this morning that I couldn't be here for the whole session. So, but I'm here now. And it's I think, a real opportunity for all of us, not just in advancing the mining industry, but advancing the community of Labrador West. And, you know, when we talk about moving towards a greener economy, it's really talking about maintaining our prestige in the world market. We have always been a place, the Labrador Trough is known everywhere in this world. And as we celebrate 70 years of mining in that trough, we have to be able to say to the world that we are continuing to lead. And in order to lead, we need to lead with a greener product. And that's exactly what we're beginning to do here in Labrador West and at home. And some people will often say to you, you know, you invest all this money into this one project and there are other priorities. There are endless priorities, and I'll talk about some of them today. But I want you to realize and understand that if we don't maintain a competitive edge in the world market as a mining region and as a mining community, then we are going to be the losers in the long run. And we don't want to play catch up in 5 years. We want to lead the industry today. And that's what companies like Takora, like Champion, like IOC, like Adler Mattel, this is what they're doing. They're looking to be leaders in the industry and not to be playing catch up in 5 years or 10 years. And it's our job as a government to make sure that they're successful. In the time I've had to spend in the Department of Natural Resources, the Prime Minister moved me this fall, but I served for 2 years in natural resources with Minister Wilkinson. And it was a real opportunity for me and for the people of Labrador, because we were really able to advance the mining industry. And we were able to focus on regions like Labrador and Northern Canada that were often left behind, and work with those companies towards a greener Canadian commodity for world export, and at the same time, create jobs and revenue for people who live in those regions. It also was an opportunity for me to really look at where the gaps were in the mining sector in the North and how we should be stepping up as a government to meet those needs. And I'm very proud of what we've been able to do, and it will make a huge difference going forward in the industry. In fact, the Mining Association of Canada has said that there has never been a better opportunity for mining in Canada than it is today. I'm going to speak about a few of those more relevant pieces that affect Labrador West, such as the critical mineral strategy, the exploration and investment program, the investment tax credit program, the Indigenous investment program, and the funding that we have built around the low carbon economy. So the critical mineral strategy is really the first of its kind in the country. And we are investing over $5 billion to support the industry, to ensure that we're able to produce metals that we need for a greener, low carbon future in Canada and maintain our competitiveness around the world. Canada started with the first regional energy and resource table right here in the province of Newfoundland and Labrador. We were the first off the mark in the past 12 months. It is an initiative that brings together the federal government, provinces and territories, Indigenous partners, and the mining industry to look at what are the top energy and resource sector priorities in each of those regions. In our case, the region is Newfoundland and Labrador and includes Labrador West. And we have several priorities in Labrador West that have topped that list, such as broadening our power grid, which I know Jennifer presented this morning and I'm sure have talked about, exploring the opportunity for manganese, which I'm sure Joe Broking of Takora has already talked to you about decarbonizing and advancing the technology at IOC, which I'm sure Mike McCann has already spoke about as well, and securing and stabilizing the labor force in Labrador West, but across Canada as well. So we've partnered with the government of Newfoundland and Labrador in that process, and that is the process we will use to advance the infrastructure investments towards the industry over the course of the next year and the years to come. We've also invested with them in the exploration program and geoscience activity, which allows for more and more exploration to take place in Labrador, As you know, everything we do costs more here. So having that support program is making a difference. I know Minister Parsons was here this morning, and I'm not sure if he's still here, but I want to do a shout out to him because he and the government of Newfoundland and Labrador were the first to add iron ore to the critical minerals list in Canada. And they're not alone. That is shared by mines in Quebec, by mines in Nunavut. And there's been some lobby ongoing within the government of Canada to ensure that iron ore gets added to that critical list. So I can't make a commitment to you, it's above my pay grade, but I can tell you I'm doing everything in my power to make sure that it happens, because it is important to people in Labrador West, and it's going to be important to all those who are doing mining production across the Arctic and northern regions. So those of you who know me know I don't give up easily, so stay tuned and hopefully we're going to have some good news. But under the critical minerals list, our objective is really to support the economic growth in different regions and to promote climate action and strong environmental management projects. We have had willing partners in the mining industry in Canada. I have seen mining companies step up in a way towards environmental standards like I have never seen before in my time in politics. And I want to do a shout out for them because they weren't resisting. They were at the table saying, how can we do better? In order to have successful mining operations, we have to advance reconciliation with Indigenous people. And we have to foster a very diverse and very inclusive workforce in all of our communities. When we can do this, we will have successful mining projects, but we will have a larger group of partners that we can count on. Here in Labrador West, we've been able to work with businesses like Carroll Lake Metal Works to develop in-house training and a learning center to support mining services. We've supported companies like Iron City Services to acquire specialized equipment that they need to grow and to upgrade their digital technologies in a way that they are leading in Canada in those fields. We've worked with institutions like the College of the North Atlantic. We've invested in skilled training and infrastructure with the college to support the mining sector here in Lab West. We work with Trades NL to open the first Labrador office to ensure they had the funding necessary to train individuals for skilled trades that were required. And we launched the apprenticeship incentive grant to help pay for the expenses of workers that are training towards the rid seal trade in their field. We combine all of this with a number of other apprenticeship grants, and one that I'm very proud of, the incentive grant that we have for women in the industrial trade sector. So we know these things are all important. When you're living in a community that is expensive to live in, when you're raising a family, and where you need to have those opportunities to continue to advance in your trade and in the workforce, we're able to step up and assist you in doing that. But we know that the demand for product is also changing. And we know that people are looking for cleaner, greener alternatives all over the world. And that's why we are continuing to invest in Labrador West to ensure that our companies have the competitive edge, whether it's in the mining industry or in the business service sector. We need to grow both if we are to be the real leaders in the country when it comes to the mining field. We are in changing times. And when we're in changing times, we have to work closer together to get the successful results that we want. I know when Minister Parsons and Jennifer spoke, they talked a little bit this morning, the Premier did yesterday, about the need for additional transmission capacity in Labrador West. And I can tell you that the right players are at the table to make it happen. It is not something that government just dreamed up last week coming here. It's something that has been ongoing within both governments and within the stakeholders community for quite a long time. And there is a full realization that a power line is critical and essential to the growth of Labrador West, and it has become one of the top items for the Labrador agenda. So I want to give you that assurance, and hopefully, we will have more information in the days to come. I also want to speak a little bit about the Indigenous Investment Fund. As you know, mining activities in many cases are founded in Indigenous lands. And many Indigenous governments have never been able to invest or be real stakeholders in these operations because they've never had the capital or the equity investment to do so. Our government is changing that. And we're making available to Indigenous governments the Equity Investment Fund for the first time, to allow Indigenous governments to be real players in the mining industry and to bring equity to the table, to be a full partner in the development of minerals for the sector. And that could be in building roads. It could be in building housing and support services. It could be in building transmission lines. The list is endless, but after many years, it is time, and it is the right time for our Indigenous partners to be investors and not just be a partner at the table, but to be a real substantial shareholder in many ways. Labrador West is no stranger to this challenge, as we know. The community today is home to more than 800 Indigenous people and nearly 600 immigrant people who have chosen Labrador West as their home. We are a very diversified community, and that diversity has allowed us to have so many other opportunities. No matter where you look in this province, we look to communities that are resilient, that know that success is possible, and continue to work towards it. In the 10 years that I've been a member of Parliament in Labrador, I've watched the economy here sink to its knees and come back up to its glory days, what we're seeing now. But it takes a lot of will and a lot of determination. And the struggle is not easy. And I can tell you, you wouldn't wish the experience on any town. I look at Mayor Barron and Councillor Pin that are here with us today. They've lived this experience, and it's not easy. But you know, there's always light at the end of the tunnel. And even when people were at their lowest in this region, when Wabush mines closed, there was so much uncertainty for so many families. Many had to leave the community. People were devastated. And not every town can rise up in the way that Wabush has rose up in Labrador West. But they had a great partnership with Takora. They were able to work with strong people like Graham Leto, who spent his life here, with Joe Broking, and with their investors and their company, with the union and their municipal leaders, and they put things back together. And once again, there's a driving industry here. And you know, and I know, it's always better to manage growth than it is to manage closure and decline. So while we have challenges today, we have great challenges because we're managing growth. We're managing a community that has potential like no other community in this province and few others in this country. And that's what we always got to remember. I know Takora is going through a rough time, Joe. I do. But I have a lot of confidence in your company. And I have a lot of confidence in the investments that you've made here and the plans that you have set forward to secure a stronger future for Takora and for the people of Labrador West. So I just want you to know that. Now, not every community got a mayor like Labrador City. As you heard Belinda take to the stage here a couple of times this weekend, she's a force. And she's a force because behind her is a force of people in this community who know there is better, who know they can do better, and they want to do better. One of the messages I heard very clearly from the mayor yesterday, and again this morning when I was coming in the door, is that we want to be a town with a mine and not a mining town. And I think that is a very important statement. It's a progressive view of the community. And when I heard that statement, it lifted my energy level. And I think it permeates right through the community, that feeling, that optimism, and that energy, because there is a bigger picture. In Labrador West is building a community around that bigger picture and creating more opportunity for people, for the people that live here and for those who want to make this place their home. As I said earlier, Labrador West was built by strong pioneers who believed in the industry, who believed in the region. I've spoken to so many people who came here in the 50s, were the first settlers in this community. They were real pioneers in a difficult, challenging time in the north of Canada, in carving out a place for the industry here. And today we need those same kind of strong pioneers to tackle the modern day challenges that we have. We need to ensure that people are ready to put themselves out there as investors in this community. Governments are ready, and we are ready to partner with groups, and we've shown that. I know in my time here, we have did investments with range from ski lodges and churches to legions to municipalities with infrastructure like water and sewer and airports and industrial parks and technology, and the list goes on. But it's a community that's growing. And when you grow, so does the demand for better services and an enhanced quality of life. And so does the need for modern day facilities. We know that when families come here, they want stability. They want a home. They want to be a full part of this community. When we meet with the unions over the years, the big issue has always been with regard to replacement workers and going out on strike. And I've had many meetings with the unions in this area around that issue. And I was so proud this year when the government of Canada finally launched Bill C-58. Bill C-58 is focused on the banning of replacement workers. So we believe in a collective bargaining process, and that's what we're encouraging unions and companies to do. We want them to sit at the table. We want them to be active in collective bargaining and not out walking the picket line. We want to ensure that our supply chains are strong and that they are not broken. That when you have a mine in Canada that is your customer, that you can depend upon them. And I just hope that all provinces in Canada will follow suit with what we've done as a government, and that is to ensure that there is the responsibility of both workers and companies to settle their differences at the table and not on the picket line. And while the federal government, I know we've had a lot of talk about healthcare, and I'm going to touch on it. It's not a federal government mandate. I know it's with the provinces. And, you know, we're very fortunate because we have a premier in this province who comes from a medical background. And we've worked closely with him on the medical file in healthcare. And he understands it. He understands there's a need to modernize to a different generation, to a different level of healthcare. In the last year, our health and social transfers to the government of Newfoundland and Labrador exceeded $1 billion. And that's an annual transfer that we do. But we do have conditions on the funding. And the funding is focused towards northern rural regions like Labrador West to help with rural doctor recruitment, to help with rural nurses and specialists. It is there to enhance mental health services in northern and rural areas and to ensure that families have access to primary health care services. The challenge is one that exists right across rural Canada. And even though we have a transfer agreement with the province and there's money being invested to tackle this issue, recruitment is hard. Right now in the medical profession, recruitment has been hard right across the country. And the Premier outlined that yesterday. So we need to create better incentives. We need to create better housing in order to attract the people we need to the community. And we're working in partnership with them to do that properly. I don't know if Sandy Penny is in the room today, but she spent over 30 years in this community, and she is the Director of Healthcare for Labrador. And I always say her job is even tougher than mine, because not only is she answering to the needs of patients across Labrador, but she's also trying to recruit the personnel we need to deliver those services. And I want to give her some support and encouragement, because I've had to call her in the middle of the night many times and text her just to get the support for families that we need. Civil servants don't have to do those jobs in that way, but there are some who go beyond the call of duty to do what they can. And right here in Labrador West, she's one of them. And you are really, really fortunate to have her on your side. So in addition to doing the transfer agreement with the province on healthcare, we also looked at other areas where we could step in to close the gaps as a federal government. One is in the dental care program, and you've heard about it. It's being systematically launched by age in order to ensure that we can manage the new system that we've set up to manage the intake. And over the next year, more and more Canadians will have the opportunity to register for dental benefits until we get to a place where all Canadians will be covered. In the next 2 months, you will see us table the first pharmacare bill in Canada, which will be there to support people through their sicknesses and illnesses to get the kind of diagnostic treatment and medicines that they need. And I think often about cancer patients, about diabetics, heart patients who often need consistent and specialized treatments. And our pharmacare program is being designed to meet those particular needs of Canadians. Labrador West is one of the areas where sometimes I look across Labrador, and for those of you who know this region very well, it's like representing 4 different areas. You know, you got a growing fishery in the south, you got isolation and issues in the north, you have mining issues and growth issues in the west, and you have a whole other pot of issues in every other section of Labrador, including in the Lake Melville area. It's not one size fits all in the north. Every single region has very different needs. And so our issues range from one end of the spectrum to the other. But when I look at Labrador West, sometimes I say, well, Yvonne, if we could deliver now on this transmission line, and we could deliver on the seniors housing, and we could deliver on family housing, then all of our problems would be fixed. And I wish that was true, but it will advance it to a large degree. There is absolutely no doubt about that. And I'm going to speak about housing a little bit, but not a lot, because Minister Paul Pike is here, and I think Jennifer McCauley is here, and they're going to be speaking to you as well. But on seniors housing, this has been a mission of mine for a few years in Labrador West. And despite all attempts to bring together the right developers, the right funding agencies, the right industry to support it, we've not yet been able to hit the mark in a way that we have. And I remember talking to the Premier about this back a few months ago and saying, you know, can the province help here? Can you lead this project? And without hesitation, they stepped up. And they are doing that now. And I'm sure when the minister speaks, he will certainly bring you up to speed on what's happening. But, you know, there is a lot of support right now being positioned in the community to get those housing needs met. And I'm very optimistic that with everybody working in the way that we are, that this is going to happen. So, Paul, I'm not going to steal your speech. I'm going to let you talk about it. But one of the things I do want to say, people talk about fly in and fly out. It's a serious problem here, folks. It's a huge problem. I was born and raised in Labrador, lived here my entire life. I have not seen the population of Labrador grow. We have not grown year over year, but our industries have grown, our businesses have grown, our opportunities have grown. The population of Lab West has grown by 2.5 or 6% in the last year alone, but they're coming from other parts of Labrador to make Labrador West their home. It's not our people that's flying in and out, it's everyone else. And unless we can change the dynamic of how we do business here, we are not going to grow the population of the region or grow the population of Labrador. And I look at things like the median income in the province. In Labrador West, the median income is $113,000 a year. In the province, it's about $40,000 a year. Can you make good money and have a good life here? Absolutely, you can. But you need a house to live in. You need childcare services. And we've heard all this week. And I'm hoping that the programs we have in place is going to help. So we've done a lot of work around a childcare agreement. We did a $300 million agreement with the province of Newfoundland and Labrador to deliver $10 a day childcare, to build more spaces for childcare centers, to educate more early childhood care workers, and to ensure that they're paid a reasonable, respectable wage for the work that they do. Will it make a difference? Absolutely it will. But we can't make all of these things happen overnight. It takes a little bit of time, and they are in the works, and hopefully we can meet those targets sooner rather than later. I guess what I'm saying is that we are positioning Labrador West to meet the growth demands that are there. And we've put a lot of these pieces in place that will help, but there's still lots more work to do. And I believe that our neighbors on the Quebec side is also a big part of that. And I know the mayor from Fairmont is here. I know Champion Mines are here, a number of other stakeholders. And they've been really supportive of me in trying to deliver funding for the paving of 389, which, as long as the Quebec government stays on course, the government of Canada will continue to partner with them to do the work on Route 389, just like we did on Route 510 in Labrador. So there is lots happening, but there's lots more to do. So I'm going to kind of clue up here because I know that people are probably wanting to get on to the rest of your program. But I really believe that the opportunities that exist in Labrador West is positioning us to be not just a growth center, but a leader for all industry in northern regions of Canada. I brag about this community so much when I attend the international conferences on the Arctic, which focuses on mining, resource development, housing, standards of living, all those things that we have challenges with here. Every Arctic country in the world is dealing pretty much with the same challenges. I'm telling you that so you don't feel isolated and alone. And I'm also telling you that so that you can get ahead of the race and show them the real models that work and that is benefiting your community. So we are at a turning point, not just in Labrador West, but in many northern regions in the country. And we have to make that turn together. We talk a lot about working together and being partners, but we can't just talk about it in this room and then go outside and not be real partners at the table. I've ran into experiences in Labrador where people who should be working together refuses to sit at the table with each other for the progress of all Labradorians. I hope that this is not going to be the way forward for Labrador. I believe that working together should be meaningful. And if you're prepared to be a working partner with Labrador, you need to come forward and show your hand. You need to invest here, put down roots here, be a real player, and have open dialogue with all people who live in Labrador and not just dialogue in isolation of one another. So as we move towards the International Women's Day, I have to make a comment for sure on that piece. because Labrador West has led services for women over and above any other region in Labrador. They were the first to get transition housing. They were the first to invest in modern day shelters and programs for women and children. And I really want to acknowledge that we've taken their model, we've applied it in so many other areas of Northern Canada. But I'll leave you with this. Everything we do in Labrador is tough. It's hard. It's never easy. And as a female politician, I can tell you, as a woman in this business, everything I do is hard. It's difficult, and it's never easy. I've given 30 years of my life in politics in Labrador, and I've had to work twice as hard, twice as long, be twice as committed to get the job done. When I look at Labrador, I see people who've had to work twice as hard, twice as long, be twice as committed to get the job done. As Labradorians, when we set goals for ourselves, just like we do as women, we do so being strong and resilient. So I really believe that together in Labrador, we are strong and we can do this. We can set the course for the vision that we want to have. It doesn't just start with me or you or you. It has to include all of us. It's not a government problem. It's not a Mayor Barron's problem or Mayor Adams. It's not a company problem. It's all of our problem. And we are only going to fix it if we all work together. So let it not be a slogan and let it be something real. Thank you.